Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's video is a really cool video about Terra Clay paint and Patina paint products. I purchased this beautiful washstand from a local auction and decided I needed to jazz it up. It was a little boring and a little plain. Let's add some texture with Terra Clay paint. As always, before you begin, you need to remove all the existing hardware and clean your project well. You can use Terra Clean, White Lightning, or Pristine Clean. The front two panels on the front of this washstand needed to be livened up a little bit. For this, I'll use Woodubend. This is Woodubend moldings. You can find them under Tools on the Dixie Belle Paint page. Woodubend moldings are super easy to use. All you need to do is heat them up on the back side of the molding with a heat gun or a hairdryer. Apply wood glue and adhere them to your piece. It's recommended to use wood glue when applying your Woodubend moldings to a piece of furniture. Woodubend moldings are easily stained, painted, glued, drilled. Anything that you can do to a wood product, you can do to your Woodubend molding. You can easily adhere your Woodubend moldings to the front of your piece and hold them tight with a piece of painter's tape. Once you have that painter's tape holding it secure, you're going to want to heat it one more time to ensure that it's flat to your piece. As soon as your Woodubend moldings are dry, which is fairly quickly, you can paint right over top. This Woodubend molding comes in a set of 2, which is perfect for working on buffet doors or the front of a piece. Since this piece of furniture is actually a really orange colored pine, I'm going to need to prime my piece with Boss. Boss is available in 3 different colors: clear, white, and gray. For this project, I'll be using Boss in gray as my stain blocking primer. Dixie Belle Boss is applied to block any stains or tannins that might bleed through in this piece. Since pine wood is a notorious bleeder, this will help with any stains that might come through your paint. You'll also find that when you use Boss as a primer, you tend to use less paint when you're painting your project. So while my piece is drying and I've got that beautiful gray Boss on there, we are going to talk a little bit about what the plan is for this piece. I'm going to be using Terra Clay paint, and Terra Clay paint is a little bit different than some of the other Dixie Belle paint products, and I'm going to explain to you why. So the plan for this piece is Terra Clay paint, and like I said, Terra Clay paint is a little bit different than some of the other Dixie Belle paint products. It's a bit thicker. You can see the consistency of it here on the lid. It definitely has a clay-like texture. It goes on in a vibrant color, and then when it dries, it actually dries to a bit of a lighter color, just like regular clay would. You can create beautiful texture on top of your pieces where there wasn't any texture before. It's recommended to use a natural bristle brush to apply. You're going to see me on this piece pouncing my paint on. And what does that mean? Well, that means that I am creating texture, like I said, where there is none. This piece is pine. It's not in great condition. It has a couple small gouges and holes, and it's kind of got a rustic feel. So to me, that means I'm going to put a lot of texture on this piece. We're going to add a lot of depth with layers of clay paint. So let's get busy. Using a natural bristle brush, I applied Onyx from the Terra Clay paint line to all the exterior parts of the project that kind of stuck out around the molding, the handles, the hardware, anywhere I wanted to add some depth and darkness to the piece. Terra Clay paint is a perfect way to build up some texture on your piece. Since this piece is quite flat and smooth, Pouncing on the paint in this manner is going to allow me to build up texture and layers for my design, where I'm going to pull back the paint and reveal the colors underneath. Using Onyx as my base coat, this will add depth and dimension to all the areas around the moldings. Since Terra Clay paint is fairly thick, you'll see me using my spray misting bottle filled with water and applying it in a thinner manner around the moldings. This is just allowing me to get into the details and push the paint into the grooves. It thins the paint to the consistency that works better around the moldings. After I covered all the areas with the black Onyx, I came in with Desert Tan. This piece is going to be fairly neutral between Desert Tan and maybe the bit of the Onyx mixed together. I'm going to be able to get a nice beige color that's going to be a good base for my project. Continuing on with my third color, Prairie Dawn, I'm still stippling on my paint. Allowing the paint to dry in this manner with kind of a rougher edge is going to be key to pulling back the layers. Every time I scrape back a layer or pull back a layer, the color that's underneath is going to show through. I decided to add a stencil to the top part of the doors. This is just going to add a little bit more detail to the piece. I took out some of my sea spray and mixed it in with the Onyx. I tried applying it with a brush, but I wasn't really successful, so I grabbed my little spatula and I applied it fairly thickly through the stencil. What's going to happen is it's going to stay raised in a raised design, and I'm going to be able to pull back the paint on top to show what's underneath. I thought that by using the mud in this manner as kind of like a thick paste, I could build up that texture. So when you sand it back, the black is the color that's going to show through rather than the paint on top. I'm not being really precise in my action either. Like, I'm not really defining the entire stencil. I'm more like doing a paint drag and just getting that texture on the design and giving it a faint outline. You should note that while using Terra Clay paint and applying it in this thick manner and building up texture and design, you're going to really want to wait a long time for that paint to be thoroughly dry before you come in and start with your second layer of Terra. Because if that first coat isn't really dry to the touch, what's going to happen is when you come in with your second coat, since it's reactivated with water, you're going to be pulling up that base layer that you want. And I really want these base layers to be buildable and chunky and really thick. You're going to see in the next few slides how actually crunchy and thick this project really is. So make sure you have enough time in your time frame to space out those layers and wait for this sea spray and texture to really get dry before you start on your second layer. So this looks pretty scary right now, right? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I know it looks like a hot mess, but here's the deal. I've got a fan blowing on the piece to dry the areas with the sea spray and the Terra. It's not tough, this area, right? Like, it's not like a strong surface, but this is the plan. I'm going to paint over top of all of this, over top of this gorgeous texture and this gorgeous like crumbly stencil. And once I paint over top of it, then I'm going to come in and sand it back some so that this appears as a more raised, darker design over top of the, I should say underneath, right? Underneath the light color paint. So this is a total experiment. I've never actually done the texture in this way before. I've often layered the texture on the base like you saw me do, but I've never done it to this extreme. So let's experiment with me. Let's paint over top of it and see what happens. I'm kind of excited. This is a good look for me. Like I like this look. It's one of my favorites. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but here's the deal. Interesting furniture is always more fun than just a plain old black or white, right? So trust the process. Ugly stage, let's wait and see what happens. So now this is where the fun part really begins. I'm going to take the same 3 colors I used, the Desert Tan, the Prairie Dawn, and the Onyx. I'm going to come in with my brush, and I'm not even going to wash my brush or change brushes for colors. I'm going to start to spray and drip and build those layers over top of my texture. Once I decided where my colors were going to live and I was happy with the way that this piece looked, I got out some baby wipes and some cloths and I started to pull back the paint. Remember, I'm pulling back the paint to show the colors underneath, which is that dark onyx, as well as the texture underneath. I love to do the wet distress with the Terra. It makes your job so much easier than using sandpaper. It gives a more authentic look. I've even used painter's tape before, where you can just stick painter's tape right there on your piece and start to pull off those layers for an authentic chippy look. Now you can continue this process until you're 100% completely happy. I think I spent more time pulling paint off than I really spent putting paint on this piece. But this was key to the design choice that I made with the textures and layers. Believe it or not, when I paint a project, I tend to paint the front or just one side completely all the way so that I can decide if I really like the look. So for this piece, I started completely on the front, and once I was finished, I then moved on to the rest of the piece. Repeating the same process and even painting the back, because this piece will be sold in my booth space here at the Lazy Daisy in Richmond, Virginia. After waiting for my piece to dry thoroughly, I decided to seal it 100% before I started in with my next step. Because I know patina paints are messy and drippy, I used my Terra Seal to coat the entire project before I began. So now that I have sealed this piece and I'm ready to add the accents, we are going to talk a little bit about patina paint. So what is patina paint? Well, patina paint is this really cool product that Dixie Belle carries that actually has metal and the capability to rust and crust and get beautiful on your piece. So if you look at this board, I've got actually 3 little spots down here. This is rusted, and this is the original color. This is the iron I'm going to be using today. And I'm going to be using it with the green spray. If you use it with the blue spray, you're going to get more of a variegated effect, kind of with some little bits of green in it. This is the copper with the blue spray and the green spray. And then here is the bronze with the blue spray and the green spray. You can see how it actually changes. It rusts and crusts and makes a beautiful technique. So I'm going to add a little bit of this rusty crusty on my project. I think I'm gonna go heavy like on the handles area, the hardware area, and dripping down from the actual Woodubend that we put on this piece. I do like this look, but it is a little bit more of a rustic kind of a feel. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I personally like a rusty, crusty, grungy piece. So let's get at it and show you what patina spray and patina paint can do. For this part of the project, I used chip brushes. This is going to allow me to throw them away when I'm finished because you're going to find that it's really hard to wash out the metal products that's in that patina paint. I'm going to apply it in a stippling manner and only apply it where I want it to rust and crust on the piece. So this means that I'm going to focus anywhere where you would look at a door maybe and see rust actually dripping down. That would be from the handles or from any parts that would be sticking out like the moldings. So I'm going to go heavy on the handles, the hardware, and the edges around the bottom of the moldings to see what happens when I spray it. I'm actually going to leave the drips on this piece. Sometimes with patina paint, when you use your patina spray, it can make a really kind of drippy effect, but I want that. I'm going to be going for that on this piece. So along with the iron that you see me applying, I also use copper. The copper, when you spray it, is going to go green, so I'm not going to use as much of it as the iron because I really want that rust color, but I will accent the edges with a touch of the patina with the copper just to kind of give it a little bit of color. I'm going to be applying the green patina spray on top of the wet patina paint. This is a key factor when you're using patina products. Your patina paint must be wet when you're spraying your project. The next tip I have for you is that you need to spray liberally. And when I say liberally, I mean give it a soaking wet bath. It needs to be very, very wet in order for that paint to activate. There is a small nozzle on the front of this little sprayer, and I had to struggle with it a little bit. I wanted more of a mist rather than a spray. But once I figured it out, it was quite easy to get it onto the piece. The longer your patina spray is activating with your patina paint, it's going to make that rust and crust happen. It's not going to happen quickly. This is something that's going to take hours. I think I waited approximately 4 hours before I came back in and sealed my rust. To seal your rust, you can use the patina guard, you can use a clear coat, you can use gator hide, whatever you wish in order just to seal it and keep it where you want it to stay nice and rusty and crusty. I spent a lot of time kind of fussing with this because I really wanted that rust to look authentic. So I did a lot of kind of manipulation of the actual product to get it to drip down, to pull it down. And like I said, these brushes will be thrown in the garbage after. I'm not going to wash them. So I did kind of mix them around with the spray, knowing that I was going to create an authentic drip factor. And then this is what we were left with. I continued the same rusting process around the sides and the top of the piece, and the magic did happen. I ended up with a perfect patina piece. There's touches of green with that copper patina. The iron turned into a beautiful coppery color, and I completely love it. I added the hardware to this piece. Since I took off the original hardware, I had to make the holes a tiny bit bigger, and I was done. This piece went from boring and brown to nautical and fabulous. It looks like it was dragged out from the ocean, and that makes me 100% completely happy. This was the look I was going for. To be honest, I probably could have done more, but I didn't want to get it too crazy where nobody could envision it living in their home. And believe it or not, after taking this piece to my local Lazy Daisy, where I do sell my products, it sold in 2 days. Somebody else did love it just as much as I loved it. If you give this look a try, I would love to see what you create. Make sure to send me a picture and let me know how you did with your patina paint products.